Hi everyone.
Good evening and welcome.
And who is our guest?
I have no idea.
Oh, not this again.
I know, but one thing I do know is it's Codes of the Unknown.
Oh yeah. Hello. And good evening. It's Friday, and we are joined by the wonderful Malcolm Robinson.
Yes, coming all the way to us from Bonnie, Scotland. He's the founder of Strange Phenomena Investigations, which he started in 1979. He's also assistant editor of Chris Evers' Outer Limits magazine. He's given lectures worldwide. He's an international artist. Well, he could be an artist. An international author of countless books, and has assisted on radio and TV stations all over the world, providing information on the paranormal and UFOs. So welcome, Malcolm.
Hello, it's lovely to be here, Deborah.
Lovely to have you.
Yes.
So my first question, let's get started, is what got you into all this? What was your first experience where you thought, wow, there's something?
Well, there's so many. I mean, obviously, as a small boy growing up in Scotland, I always had this fascination for all things weird and wonderful. But I remember my family taking us down to Blackpool on holiday. And the first thing I went to on the fairground was, of course, a ghost train. You know, I just loved it. I loved the atmosphere, the things falling down on your face and things creeping out of you. And although it was a bit of fun, it was quite interesting, you know. And as I grew older, I started to read the books of Eric Van Daniken, and I watched shows like The Outer Limits, The Twilight Zone, and we obviously progressed to Star Trek. So clearly, that interest was evolving. That interest was there, and it was growing all the time. But I honestly, and I've said it before on other shows, I honestly didn't feel there were any validity to the claims pertaining to the paranormal. I thought it was all hocus pocus. It was a lot of nonsense, wild imaginations. And I actually set out in 1979 to disprove these subjects, you know. And but like anything else in life, how wrong was I? You know.
Yeah.
It's fair to say, you know, there is a lot of shenanigans out there. Let's be honest about this. There are a lot of people out to pull the wool over your eyes and just get their name in the papers, etc. We know that. Yeah. But as my life progressed and I met so many interesting, wonderful people from all walks of life, I began to realise, wait a minute, hey, there's something really sincere here. These people are not making it up. These people have got a story to tell. But I guess probably one of the early incidents concerning myself, you asked the question there, Deb, is what, and it happened to me as a small boy, probably about what, 10, 11 years of age. My mother had came home with a pair of black shoes, and she says, Malcolm, I've got a pair of lovely shoes for you. There you go, son. And I didn't like them. You know, and very tempestuous I was. So I got these shoes and I threw them down towards the couch in the living room. They were definitely going towards the couch. They stopped in midair, rose up and went smash through the window. And my mother had that time, and she thought, why did you do that? I didn't do that, you know. So, I mean, I've got so many more cases, but that was probably the first one that I remember. I mean, there is a few. I'll give you a few quick, for instances.
Yeah.
Another one was, I was just resting on my bed, and I suddenly saw this instantaneous television about 4 inches wide, 4 inches tall appear, and it was like cowboys and Indians. Now, people will say, well, you're dreaming, you know, and I may have been, but I was convinced that I was wide awake, and suddenly this just appeared there. You know, it was crazy, absolutely crazy. And then another one was when I went to a friend's house. Again, I was just a young boy, well, a wee bit older now, probably about 12 or 13. Yeah. And I walked into my friend's living room. It was all darkness. And then I suddenly saw a lot of people around the wall, sitting in chairs. And there was a guy in a white, it was like a doctor, effectively it was like a doctor, and he was putting his hands on somebody's head. And I said to my friend, what's going on? What's this? Yeah, my mum's got this healer in, and he's doing what's known as psychic healing. What's that? Yeah. Well, he cures people with his hands. Really? And then somebody said, oh, here, that's that young Malcolm Robinson fella. He suffers from asthma, so he does. So I got ushered into the room, and I got sat on this chair, and I always remember it, you know, and this guy put his hands not on my head, but just above my head. Yeah. And it was like this radiation, this burning, like an electric bar fire, 1 bar or 2 bar electric fire, somebody holding it above your head. But what was different for me was I fainted.
Right.
And I fell on the floor, and then when I woke up, I couldn't see. And I was really in distress, and I was saying, what's going on here? What's happening? And then eventually got my sight back. But my asthma did recede from there on in. And obviously I'm older now. I recognise what was going on. These were just a number of things from a young age that really made me sit up and take notice of the strange world about us. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Psychic healing is amazing, though. It's just like somebody holding a radiator over your head, wherever it is that they've put it. Yeah. I walked into there was a psychic healing thing in like a scout hut, not far away. I wasn't limping, I wasn't walking funny, and I went in, and she came over to me and she said, sit down. So I sat down, and she said, I know where your problem is. And she went straight to my back, and I had got backache, and it just felt like it was burning. I thought I was actually on fire. It was that hot. But I tell you what, she cured me.
Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Can I just jump back to something you said about the little TV with the cowboys and Indians?
Yeah.
I've heard about 3 or 4 different accounts of that from different people.
Right.
A little TV up, and it's always cowboys and Indians.
Is it really? I never knew
it's black and white.
It is,
yes. It's in black and white with like a blue tinge to the back screen.
Yeah. Honestly, you're the first person.
When you said it, I got goosebumps all the way through.
You are the first person in my life that's ever come back and said other people have had that. I thought it was crazy. I thought it was only guys. So
no, I'm just trying to think of the other person. There's another person that I speak to quite a lot, and I can't think who it is.
I mean, when I give lectures. Sorry, I've got that much to tell you. I just got to jump in.
Yes, all right.
There's another story about an instantaneous television that I talk about. Now, this story is true. What happened? Like when I lived in Ealing in West London, I had meetings there. I had lectures there, and this lady came up to me and says, "Malcolm, I've got a story my mother told me, and she says, you've got to meet her. So I met this elderly lady. She was about 89 or something. And she says, during the Second World War, when the British was fighting the Nazi menace, the U-boat menace in the North Atlantic, well, her son was working on one of the ships there. And what happened was she was back home in Tottenham, North London. Her son's away in the North Atlantic in one of the ships, hoping that the Nazi U-boat menace would not be in that area. So imagine the scene. She's sitting in her living room in Tottenham. She's knitting a jersey, and then bang, suddenly an instantaneous television set, this time in colour. But in this vision, she saw the arms of her son flailing in the water, the cold, icy water of the North Atlantic, and she could hear mother, coming all these miles from the North Atlantic into her home in Tottenham. So what she was actually seeing was the last remnants of her son's life ebbing away. And I think you know what's coming next, Andy and Deb. She got a telegram a few weeks later from the Admiralty saying, sorry to tell you that your son was lost. His ship was sunk by the U-boats on such and such a day. It was the same day and the same time as when she saw that vision. So there's my little telly. There's the one that you said, Andy, and this lady. So what's going on?
And the report I gave you about mine back a few years ago.
You did. I remember that well, Deb. Yes.
Yeah, because I saw you mention it when you were talking about it at Hull. I got goosebumps then because I'd never heard of it before until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Then thought I've got to talk to Malcolm about this.
So
anybody
that's watching or listening to the show, if you have any evidence or anything of this nature, a story of this nature you'd like to tell us, please get in touch with Andy and Deb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We'll pass it on.
Yeah, so I was going to say, when we was watching in Hull, and you said, could you mention the TV then? Straight away I thought, I've remembered who it is. It's a guy in America. And he was having a lot of like orbs and all that, and he said this TV popped up. And he said it's always cowboys and Indians, never anything else.
That's weird.
So I don't know, no idea what that is. But yeah. Strange. Very strange.
That's why
funny how it's cowboys and Indians, though. That's all a bit. I mean, mine was obviously showing me what I'd been kind of pondering about for years, and it was kind of like that was the answer there on the screen when it popped up. But cowboys and Indians, it's a bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, admittedly, I did watch a lot of westerns when I was a wee boy growing up, as I'm sure a lot of guys did. You know, is that the reason? Is it fanciful? All I can say, and I'll say it again, I am absolutely positive I was wide awake. I really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's just
nothing astounds me anymore, though. I mean, if anything can happen nowadays.
Just get used to the
mind blowing.
Paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about the school incident then. I don't think people maybe know about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my research has taken me all over Great Britain, and I love the paranormal, the ghosts, the poltergeists, the UFOs, the lake monsters, the cryptids, etc. So I enjoy everything, really, you know. And the big story where I come from in Clackmannanshire in central Scotland was the Sauchie Poltergeist, and I grew up with that. You know, it occurred in 1960. And I was only 3 years of age back then. I was born in 57. So, but as I grew older, people were still talking about it in the villages and the towns. And then when I got older, I decided that, you know what, I've got to speak to these people. I've got to try and find out what the hell's going on here. Yeah. But to put it all into perspective, the story effectively starts in late November, early December 1960, when 11-year-old Virginia Campbell came over with her mother from Donegal in Ireland. She had left her farm, and the father stayed back in Ireland to sell the farm, but his wife and Virginia came over to Sauchie in central Scotland to live with her brother-in-law. Yeah. We Virginia didn't want to go. I mean, she was leaving all her friends. She was leaving her little dog Toby over in Ireland. But like anything else in life, it was all set in stone. She had to go.
Yeah.
A few weeks after they had arrived in Sauchie, She was in a single bed. Her cousin was in another single bed, around about the same age. She was 11, her cousin was 10, Margaret. And suddenly they heard footsteps walking along the linoleum floor of the bedroom, but there were nobody there. Then they heard scratching sounds and then thumping sounds, and they thought it maybe mice or rats. So they jumped up quite frightened and started running down the stairs. As they ran down the stairs, she said that it was the sound of like a medicine ball. Back in 1960 in gymnasiums, you got these great big medicine balls.
They weighed a ton.
They weighed a ton. And she said it sounded like one of those hitting every single step behind them. So they ran into the living room. She shouted at her mother, and she says, "Look, there's something weird happening here." Of course, the mother and that thought, they're just making it up. You know, there's kids will be kids. Come on now, up the stair, get up to your beds, come on. So the mother took them up to the beds, and as soon as she did so, the bedstead started to vibrate on both of the kids' beds. And then she herself heard the scratching noises and the footsteps, and that effectively was the start of it.
Yeah.
From there, various strange things would happen, like a Brillo pad, for instance, came out of the kitchen and floated in the living room and fell down. Virginia was using the Hoover on one occasion, and the plastic rubber bit of one of the handles of the Hoover came off and struck her on the nose. A clock came off the sideboard and whacked her nose as well. And when she was in the living room with her mother and her mother's brother-in-law sister, a sideboard came out from the wall a few inches. Nobody was near it and went back again.
Yeah.
So by that time, her husband, Virginia's dad, had come back from Ireland. He didn't believe any of this until he saw it all himself, because one time he went into the toilet and a shaving brush, back in the 60s, men used those kind of bristled shaving brush, came out of a jar, floated across the room and came towards his face and just fell.
Wow.
So things were escalating. They says, well, what are we going to do? Who did you go to? Did you go to the police? Did you go to the next door neighbour? Or what did you do? So she decided the only course of action was to go to the local reverend, the Reverend Lund, a local minister. And he attended the family home. And no sooner was he in the family home than he himself saw and heard various things as well. At that junction, they brought in a local GP, the general practitioner, and who had been in the family home before. And he couldn't believe what he was looking at, because back in 1960, at the foot of your bed or sometimes against the wall, there was a long linen chest. Yes. Now, this long linen chest was about 6 to 8 feet long. You pull it up, and it's all just duvets and pillows and throws inside it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it was against the wall, and then suddenly it started to come out 18 inches. It came from the wall right towards his person, screeching as it did it along the linoleum floor. At that point, the closed lid of this linen chest started to go up and down and bang, bang, bang with nobody there. And he was just absolutely flummoxed by this. You know, he couldn't believe what he was looking at. And other times when Virginia was lying in her bed, a secondary pillow, which was next to Virginia, nobody was there, depressed down, like as if it was an imaginary, ghostly, invisible head pressed down into the fabric of that pillow. Oh. And then the bed cover started to ripple as if you had thrown a stone into a quiet pond, and the concentric ripples. And he's an educated man. This doctor and this minister, and they're looking at this, they can't believe it. So they actually called in some other ministers from the Church of Scotland, and they did an exorcism. And during the exorcism, loud bangs and rappings came from all over the house. They were even heard by the next door neighbours, such with the noise yet.
Yeah.
So they kept Virginia off the school for a couple of days. But before she went to school, she went to another town called Dollar, a house in Dollar, to stay with another relative. Dollar is a small town about what, 5-6 miles or so from Sauchie.
Yeah.
And no sooner had she went to an independent house, another house, bang, bang, bang. Things are happening, beds are shaking. The same thing happened. So they brought her back to her mother. And eventually she went to school. And this is where the things got even more bizarre, more crazy. And I'll give you a couple of quick for instances. Back in 1960, for instance, they were the schools in Scotland had upwards of about 30, 40 kids. You know, they were really jam-packed. So the teacher, Margaret Stewart, had given the class an essay to do. So all the wee kids are bent over their jotters with their pens, writing away, apart from one little girl, and that was Virginia. And Virginia had her forearms like that on her desk. And the teacher says, she looks up the classroom and, what are you doing? Stop that at once. I can't, miss, I can't, stop it. So as soon as Virginia lifted her arms up, the desk lid started to flap up and down. There was a desk next to her, which nobody was sitting in, rose up several inches off the floor and clattered back down onto the floor. And needless to say, the classmates were just in disarray. They were screaming and craziness. So she was starting to get this reputation. Nobody would go near her, like a spooky girl and all things, you know. Yeah. Then another occasion, which was even worse, she approached the teacher's desk with her jotters, with her essay. There you go, ma'am. There you go. She placed it on the teacher's desk. Now, on the teacher's desk was this large wooden cane, which she pointed to the blackboard, you know, if you've got some.
Yeah.
And it was lying flat, Andy. It was lying flat on the desk.
Yeah.
It started to vibrate, and then it stood up vertically and started whacking down on top of the desk. This desk that the teacher was behind is a big, heavy desk, big wooden desk. You know, it was
used to be
out of IKEA. This was thin IKEA. So it started to vibrate, and then it lifted up a couple of centimeters off the floor and turned round, whereas the teacher's stomach was in the long part of the desk. The whole table had turned round, and her stomach's in the narrow part of the desk. Again, the class just went ballistic. They were screaming their heads off. And as they did so, there was a vase which contained some flower bulbs. Screamed off the table and smashed against the wall. So all the kids are rushing to the one door to get out of this classroom. And it was like a Tom and Jerry. You know, everybody's trying to get out. The teacher, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I'll let you out. So the teacher grabbed the door. And she said in an interview to me, she says, Malcolm, I couldn't open the door. I could not open this door. Jeez. It was like a big heavy man was at the other side saying, no, you're not coming out. No, you're not coming out. And she says, oh, sorry, children, the door seems to be a bit jammed. It must be very windy today. And then suddenly she could open the door and all the kids came tumbling out into the schoolyard, you know. And I mean, there's so much more about the Sauchie case. And I've actually re-interviewed some of the kids who were in that school at that time. Obviously, they're older now, you know. And I've also interviewed one of the doctors who attended the farm. So the photograph you're looking at is the original Sauchie school. Sadly, it's now demolished now. There are new houses on that where that building used to stand. And so I've interviewed all these people, and they says, how come we were there? We saw it. So on the anniversary there, the anniversary of the Sauchie Poltergeist a few years ago, I gave a lecture here in Sauchie where I'm doing the show with you in the Sauchie Town Hall. And it was absolutely packed to the gunnels. It really was. And the piece de resistance was I had one of the former classmates there. And I says, at the end of my talk, I says, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your patience here this evening. I've got one more special guest. Would you step forward? And this guy who was in the class came up to the podium and says, let me tell you what I saw. I was there. And that was just the icing on the cake. It was fantastic. But I had to write a book about it. So I'm going to plug the book now. We get available on Amazon, folks. That's the one, yes.
There you go.
There you go.
Excellent. Good
just
book,
in case,
I mean, so people may say, well, Malcolm, what do you honestly think is behind the Sauchie Poltergeist? And what I can say to you two lovely people here, first and foremost, is I don't agree with some of my colleagues who say that it's sexual repressed energy exuding from young boys and young girls going through puberty. If that was the case, then surely you would have poltergeist events in every bloody house in the Great Britain.
Exactly, yeah.
So I don't think
constant.
I think it was a very nasty spirit. And just before I finish off on this one, actually, because I'm trying to remember everything about this case, I managed to track down a lady, an elderly lady who knew the family. And she didn't know that I was writing a book about the Sauchie Poltergeist. I just said that I'm trying to trace the Campbell family. And I believe they may be in Bedford. Yes, that's right, Mr. Robinson. And she gave me all the names of the people, and it was spot on. So I knew she was in Bedford. And I says, is Virginia still in Bedford? Oh, no. She's in Kempston. Now, Kempston is a small town adjacent to Bedford. We've tried to get a hold of Virginia Campbell. She's married now. She's got a new surname. I would love to get her 2022 thoughts and say, you were there. It happened to you. Tell me all about it. I would have loved to have got that for the book, but sadly, we've not traced her yet.
So if anybody's out there in the know, get in touch.
Can I know I've got a few friends in Kempston because it's not far from where I'm from.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I can ask about and see if anyone knows anything.
Yeah, perfect.
The Kinsella twins are there as well, aren't they?
Yeah. They're just over the road. Yeah, they're not too far away.
That's great guys.
So.
Oh yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
I'll pop the picture up of the house. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
There you go.
So the house, it's the one on the left. It's just a Scottish special house. It's in that street. There's all the houses look very much the same.
Yeah.
And would you believe when I did my investigations on on the Park Crescent, I found out there was 3 other households who had ghosts in their house over the years. I also found out a couple of residents who went into the Campbell home after they had moved also got paranormal events as well. So, oh yes, another thing I should have said was this old lady that I spoke to in Bedford, she says, yeah, do you know she had a poltergeist, Mr. Robinson? And I went, oh really? Because I'm still kidding on that it's a family tree. Oh, I didn't know that. No. Yes, she had one of the poltergeist things. And do you know it's followed her down to Bedford? I went, no, I didn't know that. So that was news to me as well, because as anybody who knows the paranormal stuff will tell you, it's usually hauntings that can last for decades. A poltergeist is a very, very short-lived interference, for want of a better word, from maybe a few days to a few weeks, but generally it doesn't go on longer than that. So it's followed her down to Bedford, and these other houses in the street also were affected by ghostly manifestations, you know.
Somebody must know about her. Somebody must.
He's got a...
I mean, we did check to see if there were any graveyards or anything. We got old maps from the time, aerial maps from the 40s and that, and it was just fields, just farmers' fields. It was on that location at that time, but nothing of significance really, you know. One of these things, crazy.
Completely.
Yeah, I'll put the feelers out and hopefully someone will get back to me.
Yeah, somebody must know her. You know what these chains of like people that I can't remember what it's 6 degrees of something or other, whatever it is.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, somebody must know her.
I mean, I did mention about the depression on the pillow, but also the minister saw the pillow under. Virginia said, turn round a whole 90 degrees while her head was resting on it. The pillow turned round.
And that'd be enough to freak me out.
I'd be gone. I won't be waiting.
That's weird.
I mean, a strange facet of this case was, and I mean, I'm never embarrassed or ashamed to tell it as it is and keep things away from people like you two lovely people because it sounds ridiculous. But her green duvet cover was seen to change to blue. I know it sounds daft. I can only tell you what it is. Now, later on in the 1990s, another lady who got that house, who was in the very, very same house, her son claimed that his cover changed from, I can't remember the colour, but it turned from another colour to blue. And that's years later, you know. So
wow.
It's weird.
I've never heard of that before.
No, I haven't either.
No.
That's mad. I don't know how I'd cope with that. I mean, I've had some pretty strange stuff going on, but that's a bit out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, I know it sounds daft, but I'd love to actually be at the epicenter when a poltergeist activity is ongoing. I would love to see things. I know it sounds daft,
No.
But the same with UFO abductions. I wish it was me, but that's a story. But yeah, I'd love to see all that. We need to, even if we documented things moving by a video camera and things falling off. How many times have I said it? We're living in the Steven Spielberg age, your DreamWorks laboratory.
Yeah.
You made that computer. You did that on computer. So I think we need to be there at the very forefront of a paranormal or ufological happening and say, Christ, well, I'm not on drugs. There's no wire, strings or pulleys here. It's when you see it yourself, you know for sure that you have been touched by the paranormal or UFO presence.
That's right.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I've only ever seen one thing move. And I'll just tell you quickly. Do you remember in the 90s, the old wooden vase with a wooden tulip inside it?
Yes.
We was at my mate's house. They lived in an old Victorian house, like the terrace. So you got a front room, middle room, kitchen, cellar, and all that. We was in the front room watching TV. So it was a big bay window. So his chair was in the bay window. I was on the sofa on the wall with the hallway at the back. So we're all chatting. I think we were playing Mario Karts or something like that. And this vase came up over his head and dropped between him and the coffee table. And it was about 6 foot. And we all just went, ooh.
What you can say to that, is there really?
Yeah, we all just looked at each other and was like, oh. And it's one of those, like, I'm laughing now, like nervous laughter. But then nothing else happened after that.
That's weird.
Very strange.
That's the thing. Sometimes it can be very isolated, or it can be ongoing.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's more like a spirit coming along and going, "Ooh, I'm here. Nobody's taking any notice of me. I know what I'll do.
I'll move some stuff about."
Well, the good thing about talking about that, the good thing with the Sauchie case is they actually recorded it. Dr. Logan brought in some recording equipment, and we actually recorded the sounds of the Sauchie Poltergeist.
You played that in all.
I've still got those recordings, and it's really, really spooky, you know. And
it is,
I played it at one of my conferences, and it's like it scared the bejesus out of the audience.
Yeah, it did give me the creeps a bit at Hull.
Yeah. It's very creepy.
It was. So, going to UFOs then, what have you seen a UFO? Obviously, that's the first question.
I mean, obviously, the very nature of the work that I do, I put myself in these so-called UFO hotspots, and as such, you're more chance of seeing things. The same with ghosts and poltergeists. If you put yourself in these haunted rooms, you're more chance of seeing it as opposed to the normal guy in the street. As far as UFOs, yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was working in the Bonnie Bridge wave from 1992, and it's still ongoing, but not as much, we saw strange lights in the sky, strange shapes in the sky, etc. I remember as a small boy, going back again, this is why I'm here today. A lot of stuff happened when I was young. About 15 years of age, playing football in a school playing field. Beautiful summer's day, not a cloud in the sky. And then everybody stopped kicking the ball about, what's that? And everybody looked up into the sky, and it was like a very large egg-shaped object, white, pure white. And it was oscillating, just slowly turning and tilting in the sky, in the clear sky. And I was drawn to it. I was like, what the hell's that? And then the next thing I know, all the guys have got fed up yet, and they're kicking the ball about. And they're, come on, Malcolm, come on. I'm still looking at this. And as soon as I turned my eyes away from it and looked back, it was gone. It was gone in an instant, you know.
Yeah.
Then Loch Ness, after interviewing some of the people around Loch Ness about Nessie, I was sharing a campfire with people at Drumnadrocket on the shores of Loch Ness, French, Belgian, American people. And this lady had her back to the loch, and she turned round and she screamed out, "What the hell is that?" And I looked and I saw this ball of white light. The silhouette, it was late at night, you could still see the silhouette of the hill on the other side of the loch. And this ball of light was moving up and down like that, and moving and like crazy, you know. And then suddenly it stopped, and then it just shot up into the sky and was gone in seconds. So we did the necessary checks with the local police, with any members of the public, phoned in, any aircraft, helicopters in the vicinity. Nothing. Then there was a chap, the name escapes me just now, who says, "Malcolm, I'm using a torch to flash up at the night sky, and I'm getting columns of light coming down." "Oh, you're joking." "No, seriously, Malcolm, you've got to come up to see this." And obviously I was aware of Arthur Shuttlewood, a newspaper hack from Warminster in Wiltshire, who's sadly no longer with us. He did that as well during the Warminster mystery, and he was flashing into the night sky and get columns of light. So I was aware that this is not a trick, but something that could maybe entice something. So anyway, I made the trip up to meet Derek Lauder's his name, Derek Lauder. I made the trip up north, and it was a lovely starry sky, a beautiful night. And we got out of his car, and it was just all moorland. And he says, "Malcolm, this is all I do, mate." Started clicking the torch. You couldn't make it up, Andy or Deborah. You could not make it up, because no longer had he flashed the torch into the night sky, and then suddenly this terrific column of light just tumbled down out of a darkened sky. It was like a rope ladder of light just unfolding, and it stopped. And then it retracted and was gone in seconds. Now, it was just a light phenomena. There were no red lights, blue lights, green lights. It was just pure white. And this is what people have to remember, that the UFO phenomena is not always structured objects. It is light phenomena as well. And I was absolutely bowled over by that, you know. We spent the rest of the night there, and nothing else happened. It was just when we got there, you know. I mean, over the course of the years, I've seen strange things in the sky as well. But the vast majority of UFOs, as we all know, can be explained as having natural, identifiable solutions, quite easy.
That's amazing, though, that you could actually encourage something to appear just by flashing a torch into the sky.
Well, this is what we do, Deborah. You know, any sky watch now, because I do a lot of sky watching at Bonnybridge, at Dechmont Woods and various other places, and I always encourage people to use lasers or flash into the night sky, because you never know what may happen. You know.
Well, tell us about the Dechmont Woods incident then.
Yeah, the Dechmont Woods incident occurred when I set up SPI back in 1979. It was probably the reason, Deborah, why I set up SPI. It was my first major case, and I was only 22 years of age at the time, and I knew nothing. I knew next to nothing about UFOs, other than what I had read and books. And I was very just naive, I guess, and I was still trying to disprove them, by the way. Anyway, I saw on television. No, it was in the radio. I heard on radio about this man who had seen this strange craft in some woods in Dechmont, which is a small town near Livingston in central Scotland. It's so many miles from Edinburgh, not very far from Edinburgh. And then, to cut a long story short, I quickly got in touch with the presenter. He put me in touch with Bob Taylor. That is a witness. You can't believe that. Giving out that information, he shouldn't have given me that phone number, really. Anyway, I got the phone number. I gave the guy a phone. "Can I come and see you tomorrow?" Yeah, by all means. So myself and a colleague travelled up to Dechmont just a day or so after the actual encounter. And his house was awash with newspaper reporters, TV people, and his wife was going about with cups of tea for everybody. And he says, and I comes in with him, you know. He says, "Who are you?" I says, "Malcolm, I spoke to you on the phone." "Oh, yeah. You're not a television guy, are you?" No, me. "Good, come down. I'll tell you all about it." He just wanted to speak to somebody not with the media. So he sat down and proceeded to tell me the tale, which I'm about to tell you just now. It's well known. A lot of your viewers and listeners will be aware of this case. But just to reiterate, here is the bare bones of what happened. November the 9th, 1979, Robert Taylor, who was employed by the Livingston Development Corporation in the Forestry Department, as part of his job was to ensure that no cattle or sheep strayed into the woods and got lost, and made sure that the upkeep of the woods were fine. So it was a very mundane job. And what I should point out to yourselves and your viewers and your listeners is he was a war hero. Bob Taylor was a war hero. He fought in the Second World War. He was in a tank regiment that liberated Bergen-Belsen. He saw the horrendous atrocities and the misery when they liberated that camp. And then later on in life, as I say, when the war finished, he got these jobs. So he's doing a job that he's done many, many times before, checking the woods. All that changed. All that changed on that morning of November the 9th, 1979. He alighted out of his pickup truck. He was walking along this forestry ride, accompanied by his Irish red setter dog, Lara. Walking down the forestry ride, it opens up into a clearing, maybe a 20, 30-foot clearing.
Yeah.
And then he saw something not of this world. He suddenly saw this large dome-shaped object, which had a flange going around its perimeter and coming up from this flange with these cross-like projections. Then it would disappear. Then it would solidify. Then it would desolidify. You could see the young trees in the background. Then it was come back into fruition again, solidify.
Yeah.
And his dog was barking furiously at this sight. This thing was hovering about 20 to 30 feet in the air. And then suddenly, as if the scenario couldn't get any more bizarre, it did. Because what resembled 2 Second World War sea mines, those bouncing mines that you got in the North Atlantic, these spherical balls with the rods sticking out like that, dropped down from beneath this object, impacted onto the grass, and started rolling across the grass towards his person, making this kind of sucking or plopping noise on the ground as it did so. Then it stopped, projected some of these rods towards his person, and grabbed him at the hips, both hips, and pulled him very, very forcibly towards this larger object. And at that point, in an interview, he says, "Malcolm, I had this horrible burning smell, like burning brake linings pervading the whole area. And I also had like a whooshing or a swishing sound. And then I lost consciousness." He's not really sure how long he was unconscious for, but when he regained consciousness, thankfully, the larger object was gone, the smaller objects were gone, and there were over 40 holes in the grass, triangular marks, circular marks, and also ladder or track-like marks as well. He had a nasty graze under his chin, he had a graze on his forehead, his trousers were torn at both hips, his jersey was all muddy, and he staggered back to his pickup truck, tried to radio base, but he couldn't speak. He had lost his voice and he had a pounding headache. So he jumped into the truck. Sadly, he reversed it into a ditch. The back wheels are spinning. He couldn't get the ditch. So he staggered back to his home in Deans. And when his wife saw him at the front door, she went, "What on earth has happened to you?" And he said, "I've been attacked." "Yeah, what? What do you mean you've been attacked? Attacked by who? By men?" "No, a spaceship thing. Come inside. There's no such thing as a bloody spaceship. Come on." And then she got him in the house, and then she soon realised, wait a minute, I know my husband. My husband wouldn't lie to me about this. She began to really accept what he was saying. And she says, "Look, I think maybe we should get the local GP to come and just check you over." "Yeah, you can do. You can do." So the doctor attended. He had an elevated heart rate. He was quite excited, and he kept going on about the smell, and nobody else could smell it. And he says, "Look, you should be going to Bangor Hospital, which is only about less than 5 minutes away from his home, funnily enough. You need to get checked over." Okay, so he went to Bangor Hospital. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited. He waited 2 hours, and nobody came to see him. He went, well, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
And he discharged himself. He discharged himself. By that time, when he came back, his boss, his forestry boss, Malcolm Drummond, came to the house, and he says, well, let's go up to this scene. Show me what happened, Bob. What's happened to you? Show me. So they went up, and they found the area. There you go. There's all the marks in the grass. Christ. Yeah. And they hadn't been doing any work there. No work had been undertaken by the forestry department. So what happened next, guys, was that they had to notify the police because it was an assault by person or persons unknown.
Yeah.
So the police became involved. The area was fenced off, and the trousers were taken to Bathgate Police Station and also the forensic department in Edinburgh Police Station, where the trousers were examined by a chap called Lester Knibb. And he said to me in an interview, he says, Malcolm, these trousers, these were ripped by a mechanical force. They were pulled in a upwards manner. They were not made by any forest debris, like sharp stones or twigs. They clearly were pulled in an upward manner. And, you know, there's so much more happened about this case. And Bob Taylor said to me, he says, Malcolm, how I wish you had been there, and how I wish my dog could speak. And so we could, because people were claiming that he had hallucinations, that he had so many different things happening to him, you know. And so obviously I had to write a book about this case as well, the Dechmont Woods UFO incident. And it contains 11 theories, possible theories to explain or partly explain what happened to him,
Wow. That must have been terrifying, though.
It was. I mean, you know, and what we did in 1993 is with the help of the Livingston Development Corporation, we placed a large cairn there with a brass plaque. And a couple of years ago, I decided to really fight with the West Lothian Council to get signage put up there, because we all know that in Rendlesham Forest, there's signs, UFO pathway this way. They've got all that. So we needed to have this in Dechmont, because people were coming from all over the world to see this place in such a big forest at the time. They couldn't find it. So I managed to get signage up. We got posts up and a big pillar up, and I'm so glad. I'm really pleased with that achievement.
That you did it.
Yeah, you should be.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
It was a massive incident, isn't it? I mean, it needs some sort of recognition.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of Scotland's biggest cases, if not the biggest. Simply because it's not a light in the sky incident. It's a thing close proximity. It's close to the witness. There's interaction, and I still have here in my home the actual trousers that Robert Taylor wore, and I take lecture tours. It gives people an opportunity to hold these trousers and feel the rips and the tears in the trousers.
Yeah, examine them. These rips and tears, is there any kind of like, I don't know what the word would be. Say if you got a piece of material and you ran a lighter up it and it left that plasticky edge. Is there anything like that on the material, or is it just rips? It's just rips, Deborah, Right.
There's no fragments or anything on there of anything?
No, nothing at all of that nature. I mean, we have early doors, maybe a few years after the incident, we had the trousers psychometrized. And for any viewers who's not aware of that, it could be a ring, it could be a coin, and if certain psychic people can hold, well, say for instance a ring in their hand, and start telling you all about that person, purely emanations. So what we did is we got Bob's trousers and another pair of trousers and put them in two coloured polythene bags and moved them about. Even I didn't know which ones were which. And we got a psychic to hold them. And the first pair, she never got nothing really. And then the second pair, she let go. What on earth is in there? She knew it was spongy, so she knew it was cloth or a material. What? What are you getting? What are you getting? I seem to be getting like a man pinned up against a tree, so woods in a forest and stuff, you know. So that was bizarre.
Wow.
That was quite
Yeah.
But We wouldn't try that now, folks, because so many people have handled those trousers now that all their emanations are on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still good
Have
to
you?
have.
No. I was just gonna. Have you had anyone do any remote viewing on it, or anything similar?
We haven't, and that's a good point, Andy, because what I'd like to do is give somebody who claims they're a remote viewer and give them the coordinates of the area and the gear of the area and the time. And wouldn't that be great for somebody to remote view, go back in time?
Yeah.
You could do that with anything. You could do that with Roswell or
Well, we know someone that does it quite a lot. So if you want us to pass it over, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
and she's really good.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Well,
so
she's not watching the show because she'll know it's coming if I send you anything.
No, sure.
Well, she does it for fun.
Yeah, she does.
Do it. She does it as a hobby.
And
as well.
How good is her success rate? Is she very good or 50-50? Or?
Well, she did one on the Dyatlov Pass.
Oh, yeah.
She's done a few on like Dogmen and all that kind of stuff. And what's the word? Not the process. The results of everything is like from what we've been is spot on from what like with the coordinations and everything. It just tells you everything that can be seen from the time and like go back and do it as well. So
well I clearly think there's some semblance of reality in that, because let's not forget the American military have used remote viewers in various things. They may still be doing that to find out what's going on in Russia or the Ukraine or whatever, you know. And
it's like super spying.
Aye, exactly.
yeah. But she was saying she does it. She's taught people to do it. I think this year she's been at about 11, 12 years in total.
Yeah.
It's something like that.
Well, I've passed her a case of mine over to do. I'm just waiting to hear back from her now.
Yeah. Well, might as well tell her it is, because everyone in the chat knows it's Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones.
It's who? Sorry.
I don't know if you've Jessica Jones.
Oh yeah.
She's over in the US. I think she's based in
California.
Atlanta, around that area.
Right.
Sure, it's Atlanta. But yeah, no, she does a couple of shows on a weekend as well.
Yeah.
And the one that she does quite a lot is a lot of remote viewing stuff.
Yeah.
What you would need to do though is, if she's doing this case or any other case, is film it at the same time. As soon as she gets that bit of paper with the coordinates down, start filming, and then just report what she gets, you know. And that can't be tampered with. Yeah.
Well, Joe sent me the link yesterday. She's doing one this week on Mothman.
Oh, yeah.
Over at Point Pleasant. So, can't wait for that one.
That's
my thing.
Have you had any reports in of cryptids, Malcolm?
I mean, obviously, just what I've heard myself of the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, you know, and of course Nessie, Ogopogo. I mean, when you talk about cryptids, I couldn't believe it that a few years ago we had a speaker at the Scottish UFO and Paranormal Conference, Charmaine Fraser, I think her name is, and she spoke about Bigfoot in Scotland, and I was ready to laugh my socks off because of what the Bigfoot's got, come on. Our presentation was terrific. The evidence betrayed this was clearly something large, you know, and I think these things are appearing not just in America and now Scotland, but elsewhere as well, you know, with big cats, big dogs. Is it an etheric thing? Is it a dimensional thing? Is it a real thing? You know, we've got to ask the question. But clearly there's, I mean, these fascinate me as well, and I'm sure they do yourself, Deborah.
Yeah, Bigfoot appear on the outskirts of Leeds as well, I can tell you that. Well, I'm saying Bigfoot, I don't know. I don't actually know. I couldn't put a name to what I saw, but if I had to be pushed, it would be Bigfoot because of the shape of it. But yeah.
Well, I think, didn't it see the sign? Didn't it see the sign for Leeds and turn around and go back?
Cheeky. No, it bloody followed me home.
Leeds is lovely. Leeds is lovely.
It is. Thank you, Malcolm. So Scotland, Northampton's crap.
I do love Scotland. Shut your face.
Well,
hey, I'm not from here. I just live here.
Yeah, well, you're there now.
I was 23 years living in England. I only came back to Scotland last year. And
Right.
I was in Hastings. I love Hastings. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's right on the coast, right next to the English Channel. And you've got Town of Battle up the road to St Leonard's. You've got Rye. Oh, I just love Sussex. What a great place Hastings was. I miss it dearly.
Oh, I'd love to live next to the coast. I'm 70 miles away, whichever direction I go in.
Really?
Left or right, that is. Not north or south. Left or right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
East or west.
Yeah.
But I mean, the beauty of it is, as well, is no matter where I've went in my life, and I've lived in Carshalton, I lived in Sutton, I lived in Ealing in London, in Tottenham in London, so many different places. I've always found a wee hall or a scout hall to do my lectures, and get people involved. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy just speaking about these things. And I'm not an expert, not by a million bloody miles. I know nothing. But I'm just happy to share my experiences with people like yourself and your listeners, your viewers, because at the end of the day, it's the same why I give lectures. It's the same why I write books, to get the information out to the people. Because what's the point of having all this information, opening a filing cabinet and dumping it in and shutting it again forever? You can't do that.
No, that's true.
No.
That's why I keep yapping and
annoying. That's also why people come forward as well, isn't it? Because people are sharing their experiences, hearing about other people's experiences and thinking, hang on, nobody laughed at that. I'm going to say what I've seen. And it just opens up everything then. People are just sharing all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, every time I give a lecture, I've always got a queue of people coming up to me and saying, Malcolm, I've never even told my own husband about this, but I'm going to tell you. And they unload these wonderful stories, And I always ask if it's okay to, use them in future books, because it could be a piece of the jigsaw that's there. It needs to go there. She's got that the jigsaw. It's going to fit perfectly in there.
That's it.
Why it's great to talk to people. I enjoy the speaking in the bar after a lecture more than the lecture itself. Don't tell anyone.
Because that's when you get your little nuggets of information.
Oh, yes, absolutely,
Fabulous. What are your thoughts on dogmen?
Just probably like anybody else, it's a mythical creature. Is it the reality? Obviously, people claim to see it, so we can't poo-poo that, and they're clearly seeing something. It seems to be, for me, another form of cryptid, part of that family. And I don't think I'd like to see it myself. It must be very scary, but
it must.
It's just one of these strange, bizarre creatures that we have, all across the world. These, and people may speculate, well, are these part of these aliens? Are they an alien, or is it just an out-of-world creature? Is it a dimensional shift that's coming into and out of our dimension? Just like the Dechmont Woods UFO, it was there 1 minute, gone the next. There, gone, there, gone. Clearly, something was happening there. And I don't know. I mean, the Dogman's a scary thing, as is a number of the other ones.
I mean, Dogman to me is just the thought of that. I mean, from a kid, I always thought I didn't see horror films until I was a lot older, but as soon as I saw a werewolf film, and I thought to myself, I knew they existed. I couldn't. It was like some sort of thing in my head already that I knew that they were there. Although to anybody else that wouldn't have made sense, but to me it did. But the thought of actually seeing one would probably freak me out, I have to say.
Yeah.
Right, I think it's a perfect time to go for a break. And when we come back, we'll do the questions.
Yes,
we will. So, no, I didn't realise it was an hour.
We've done an hour.
I know.
Right.
If you want to go over 2, that's fine by me. Watch Deborah's face go, no.
No, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy.
Yeah, we can go over 2, whatever.
Anyway,
leave it with you
we'll
guys.
see how it goes.
So, a quick 4-minute tea break, and we'll see you then.
Okay.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
That was a quick.
And we're back.
That went quick.
It did too.
Certainly did.
Malcolm, before we go to the questions, I'd like to ask you about the Shadow Man, the Hat Man, the book that you wrote. Just a brief description of that.
Yeah, I mean, basically what happened there was an Irish family, a mother and a daughter, claimed that they were getting these horrible presences in their room. One of which was like this tall, slender person with this like a fedora type hat and either a black face with no distinguishing features. Even though you couldn't see the face, it still felt very, very menacing. It would stand in the corner of the room, looking at the bed, etc. And then there were these small creatures. Totally sounds bizarre, but I'm totally convinced of the sincerity of the mother and daughter. These small kind of alien-like creatures were also seen in their bedroom, pulling at the covers, etc. They saw a lot of orbs and strange lights in the family home. They saw a lot of UFOs outside the family home as well, moving up in the sky. But they had scratches on their body and things were happening to them all the time, these ghostly manifestations. And it didn't just happen in their home. When they went to someone else's home, a family friend, the same thing happened there as well. And it was quite a big and horrible scenario that befell this family. And again, it's in one of my books. And yeah, it's quite a crazy story, really.
So did the phenomena just happen when they visited there, or was it there as well, at play there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was occurring in different houses, and other people who came into the family home saw strange things happening as well. So it affected a number of other people who were there and saw these events as well. And, you know, it was very harrowing for the people involved.
I can imagine, yeah. Not good. Right, I'll ask the first question then, is from Rick. What does Malcolm believe the shadow people are? That's quite apt, seeing as I've just asked that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this family home over in Ireland, it wasn't just a hat man, there were these shadow people as well. And let's be honest, there's various different types of ghosts. We have transparent ghosts, we have solid-looking ghosts, we have anniversary ghosts, etc. And the shadow men, I believe, is another form of someone who has passed on, who maybe can't somehow form the semblance of how they looked at the time. So they're coming over in this kind of shadowy, transmoric kind of shape. So they are part and parcel of the paranormal. They are within that field of ghosts and spirits. They are part of that, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Next question then. What from Rick Allen again? Why does Malcolm think strange phenomena is on the increase?
Well, I think that's a good question, a very good question. Simply because of the fact that there are more television shows now portraying the paranormal, portraying the UFO. Movies are abound, you know, you've got Netflix showing a lot of stuff. And it wasn't like that back in the day when I was a kid. We only had about 3 stations. And if you ever got a program on about the paranormal, it was all one-sided, i.e., what a load of. And now we have independent filmmakers and TV producers. I work with a lot of them, by the way. And we're giving a balance now. We're giving a 50-50 balance to the viewer and say, look, here's the stuff. It could have been that, might be this. Make up your own mind. It's partly because, to answer the question, partly because we have this wealth of these programs and people are more apt to speak about it now. You know, where in the past maybe have 5 people who have seen a UFO, and maybe there were 10 people all told, but only 5 will come forward because that 5 frightened to say, yeah, me too. I think people are more apt to come forward now, which is a great, great thing. But it's still my job to ensure that what people are seeing, be it a UFO or a ghost, is not something normal, something natural. I have to dot the I's, I have to cross the T's, I have to ask them questions like, are you on any medication, sir? Are you on any drugs? You don't like asking these questions, but you got to do that.
Yeah, you're right. Next question again is from Rick. Is Malcolm a Christian and has his faith grown stronger over the years?
Oh, I love these questions. I really do. I'm Protestant by birth, nationality Scots, but Protestant. And as I've grown older, the only church I really attended was the Christian Spiritualist Church in Alloa in Clackmannanshire. And that's when I started to go to the church, and I was, you know, maybe out of 10 mediums, 3 out of the 10 are absolutely brilliant. The rest could be anything. I remember I took my mother there. She says, Malcolm, you're off your head, son. There are no such things as ghosts and poltergeists. Come along to the Spiritualist Church, Mum. Get your eyes open, Mum. Oh, no, I'm not going to that. No. So, long story short, I talked her round and she didn't want to go to the Spiritualist spooky church. And she sat down, and during the course of the evening, the visiting medium went, can I come to you? Is she talking to me, Malcolm? She's talking to you, Mum. And she started to tell my mother things technically she shouldn't have said. For instance, I see a divorce with you. I see you with an Irish man. And then my mother started to cry, and I couldn't believe it. And then anyway, cut a long story short, at the close of the evening, we went out. I says, Mum, have you got anything to tell me? I didn't want to say to you, son, that me and your father splitting up and I'm seeing a man for Ireland. How did that bloody woman know this?
Can't keep anything secret.
But I'm a Christian spiritualist. It's a great comfort to me being a Christian spiritualist, because I firmly, a whole 100% believe in life after death. It's not just a belief, it's a knowledge, it's a comfort. I've spoken to people in near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, which is the beginning, the catalyst of a movement to the other world. Yes. I've spoken to doctors, neurosurgeons, who says it's not oxygen starvation to the brain, it's clearly something else. So that's my religion, Christian spiritualist, and great comfort. I'm not afraid to die.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Next one is from Jo Weeks. She would like to know, what does Malcolm think poltergeists actually are?
Well, as I said earlier when we spoke about the Sauchie Poltergeist, I certainly don't believe they're repressed energy. I don't go along with that this is energy moving out of young people's body as they go through puberty. Don't think it's that at all. I honestly believe that sadly, they are these evil spirits. They are someone who can't recognize the fact that they've passed on, their life is no longer here. So they tend to stay around the earth plane and wreak havoc, etc. And so they kind of latch on to young people who may be distressed, but it's not that energy. But they're latching on to young kids, because you very, very rarely get a poltergeist in an adolescent or an elderly person. Admittedly, it is usually younger people. So for me, personally, and everybody's got their own ideas, I think it's a nasty spirit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm reading one of Preston Dennett's books at the moment about accounts of people that have been taken aboard UFOs, abducted, and what's happened to them. But when we were speaking to him, he's becoming sort of the same as I am. The belief that all these things are from one source, but they're showing themselves as different things to different people. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first and foremost, Preston Dennett is a lovely guy. He's a very knowledgeable guy. And his books and his videos, tremendous. Recommend it.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? I think he's probably on the right track, Deborah, because it's like a mask. There's a mask, and not seeing behind the mask all the time. UFO abductions are horrible. Let's be honest about it. They're taking people out of the comfort of their own homes, or in some instances, cars, etc., and subject them to some traumatic experience that they don't want. People say, and Preston would agree with me, that it seems to be along your family tree. It's like a lineage, that they're taking your great granny and all that was done years or so ago.
Yeah.
But what are they doing? That's the problem. If people say they're extracting sperm and ova from males and females to repopulate a dying planet, it sounds preposterous, it sounds crazy, it sounds ridiculous. But what if it is so? But the problem I have with that, Andy and Deborah, is the fact that they've been doing it now for over 40, 50, 60 years.
Yeah, that we know of.
Aye, and surely if they've got they've got enough genetic material by now to do anything they want. They don't need that. So I don't think it's that. Other people have speculated, well, it could be a soul thing. Maybe these small greys are no souls, and they're trying to search within the very psyche of human beings to find out what makes us tick, what's our soul. They say that God created man in his own image, this beautiful, beautiful man with long golden hair. So whose image are these small grey beings? The pear-shaped head, the black and shaped eyes. Do we have one God, if we believe in God that is, or do we have a plethora of gods throughout the cosmos? But certainly, as Preston would say, that I haven't dealt with any reptilian sightings. I'm aware of them, but I haven't spoken to anybody in Scotland who claims to have seen that. And I wish I would. But I've only been dealing, in my knowledge, with the people who have seen greys, etc. And so I can only really speak about that. So it does make me wonder, well, what's on with these reptilians, these insectoids, these different types of creatures? It's just like planet Earth here. We have loads of different animals. We're finding new species of frogs on this planet on a daily basis, new species of insect. We're learning all the time. But there is an agenda. Let's make no bones about it. There is an agenda with these buggers. Sorry for swearing. And it's very hurtful and deceitful and horrible. When will this end? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
I'm the same as you. I mean, they've clearly been doing this long enough to have everything that they need. And if they're such an advanced species, is it because they can't replicate naturally? Is that what reproduce naturally? I mean,
so
they're doing it via us, and I don't know. It's
a possibility. Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, I spoke to a lady who was abducted, and she was taken back on board this craft, and she was shown this hideous half human, half alien hybrid child, and telepathically she was told, "This is yours. This belongs to you." And she had one of those phantom pregnancies, so maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But people come back with scars in their body that previously were not there. So there's no denying we're dealing not with a psychosomatic event, not with people delusional, because it's a worldwide phenomenon, as we know, and it's harrowing, it's upsetting, and it really gets me angry at times. It really does.
I think the thing as well is that from reading Preston's book, it's the fact that you don't remember it all straight away. It's all this. You kind of come into terms with one part of it, and then something else is drip fed into you. Suddenly think of something. So it's like the trauma all over again, because you're adding that to what you've already remembered, and it's horrible.
Oh, it's definitely horrible. And even though I firmly believe in the veracity and testimony of these witnesses, we still have to remember people can lie under hypnotic regression.
Yes.
People there's something known as cryptonesia, something you may have read as a small child, and it's suppressed at the very back of your mind. And under hypnosis, you'll recall that, and you think it's you playing out this scenario, this story. The same can be applied to certain aspects of reincarnation or so-called past lives. So, for instance, if I was regressed and taken back to a seafaring captain of the 17th century, going over the Caribbean, maybe that's not me. Maybe I've read a book in school about a pirate or a Caribbean captain, or it could be genetic. It could be a great access to the mind through genetics, and somehow that's coming to the surface. I mean, the stories about people who have heart transplants and liver transplants.
Yeah.
To ride a motorcycle. They hated it before, but they want to buy certificates and they find out, yes, you've got the heart of someone who died on motorbikes. He loved motorbikes. Or it could be painting, or artists. And it's just, there's something about this. Cellular memory.
That's it, It's fascinating. Everything's just such a big rabbit hole, though. You start poking about in one thing, and then you lead to something else. And
it's just a maze, isn't it? A maze of rabbit holes.
It is.
Well, that's what makes life so exciting, because there are all these. May well get explanations for the mysteries. Nessie could be a large sturgeon fish. The things can be explained, but for me personally, UFOs are real. We're dealing with something real, tangible, bona fide. Nessie is real. Ghosts and spirits are real, and Sasquatch, etc. But within that, there is a lot of confabulation and a lot of falsity. We know that.
You've got to sort the wheat from the chaff.
Exactly.
That leads us on to the question from Rick. What does Malcolm think the Loch Ness monster is?
Well, it's certainly not a plesiosaur, and because Loch Ness is a freshwater loch. It was open to the sea over 7,000 years ago. It was open to the sea at the Inverness end, and the land eventually rose, and somehow it converted into a freshwater lake. More water in Loch Ness than every loch in England, Ireland, and Wales put together. And somebody came out with a statistic that you could get the world's population 3 times over in Loch Ness. Who makes it? I honestly believe, to answer the question, that well, it's not a plesiosaur first and foremost, because people often say that's what it is. A plesiosaur could not extend its neck vertically.
Right.
It couldn't be that. Some people have suggested it's a large sturgeon fish. Some people have suggested it's a mutated eel. And I probably would go along the lines of it may well be a large mutated eel. But clearly, there's something real in Loch Ness. The best evidence for me is, without a shadow of a doubt, sonar evidence, because back in 1987, there was a flotilla of boats. It traversed the loch. They're all about 13 abreast, up and down.
Yes.
I remember that.
Sonar on all these boats, the best sonar, and they picked up about half a dozen anomalous blips on their sonar scope about the size of your thumbnail. And one of the boats went back, but that time it had submerged and dived away. I've interviewed Alex Campbell. Alex Campbell was a former water bailiff in Loch Ness, and I interviewed him in 1979. And he was a man who in 1933 had a lady called Aldi Mackay came to him and said, I've just seen this crazy explosion of water and this long big hump appear in Loch Ness. So he was the first man to write about it. He was a correspondent with the Inverness Courier. And that story was the catalyst for more of the Loch Ness enigma coming forward. And he's had his own sighting in the year following, 1934. Interviewed Father Gregory Brucey at the Benedictine Abbey in Fort Augustus. It's sadly no longer an abbey, it's now flats. But he said back in 1971, he had a friend from Westminster Cathedral come up to see him, and he took him down to the jetty at the southern end of the loch.
Yeah.
And the loch was like a sheet of glass, not a ripple. And he said, well, here you are. It's great to have you up from London. Here's the famous loch. Bang. As soon as he said loch, this long serpentine neck with a small sheep-like head came out from the depths of Loch Ness, thrust about for a few seconds, and splashed back into the depths of the Loch. Now, this is a man of the cloth. And we all know men of the cloth can lie, police officers can lie, but that's by the by. But he says, God almighty, I've been here all my life. I've only seen it once. You're up for 5 seconds and you've seen it straight away. So, there is... People have to recognise that at Loch Ness, there's the moods of the loch is crazy. You have light refraction, you have mists coming over the loch, you have all the trees when you drive past it, you're only got a few passing places. And a lot of people see humps, but this is not the humps of a creature. It's what's known as a standing wave. And what that is you have a boat going south, you've got a boat going north, and as you push the water, it creates this standing wave. The boats are gone. Then suddenly you've got all these humps in the water. Yeah. So we have to be careful. But there is something there. It may well be. We'd love it to be a plesiosaur. I doubt it very much. It's not a monster. It's probably a big mutated eel. Can't believe I said that, but I did.
So what are your thoughts on Alistair Crowley having conjured something up then when he lived at Boleskine House?
Yes.
Because a lot of people say that as well.
He was billed the most evilest man in the world, and you're correct, Debs. He had a house in Boleskine. Later on, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin took it over. Anyway, he did a lot of spells there. He cast and conjured up a lot of spells, a lot of demons. And people have said that maybe it was a demon he had conjured up, this water kelpie, this water creature. Yeah. However, we have to bear in mind, remember, this creature has been seen well before. Before Alistair Crowley came to the loch. It starts off in, I think, AD 656 or thereabouts. Right. Saint Columba came over from Ireland to convert the Picts to Christianity. Yes. And he saw this creature in the River Ness, not Loch Ness, and it was attacking this man. And he says, "Go no further. Do not harm that man." And it just descended into the depths. But that is the first recording sighting of a creature near Loch Ness. Yeah. So I love the place. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in. This question's just come in, and I want to ask it because I was actually going to ask this. Rick wants to know, can you tell us about when you dived in a submarine on Loch Ness?
Yeah, that was 1994, and it was about 15 to 20 foot submarine sponsored by Swatch Watches, a red and white submarine. And the actual submarine itself was used in the North Sea to inspect pipelines to make sure there are no fractures or anything like that. So they came over to Loch Ness to do environmental studies. Now, we all know when we cut a tree down, you'll see the concentric rings. It tells you how old the tree is. Well, they were doing soil samples in the loch floor, sending this big funnel down and then extending it back. And when they got to the surface, they would open it up and you'd see all the sedimentary deposits through the millennia, thousands and thousands of years of deposits. So to fund that, for a period of a few weeks or so, they were taking members of the public down in the submarine for £69.50 for an hour. And I had to jump at the chance, folks. I really had to, you know.
Oh, yeah.
As you do. So I went up there, and if you are claustrophobic, you would not like it. Oh, my God. Tiny in there. All the dials, etc. There were water sliding, slipping down the insides of the submarine.
No.
The front of the submarine was a large, toughened glass porthole with 7 or 8 halogen lights above it to penetrate into the inky blackness of Loch Ness. On the floor of the submarine was another toughened glass porthole, and the skipper went through the kind of exit training thing, you know, safety measures.
Yeah.
In case of this, do this and do that. There's not much you can do, by the way, if you get trapped in the submarine.
No.
And so we gently went down, and it was pitch dark for about 14 or 15 feet, and then clear as a bell.
Really?
Oh, unbelievable, yeah. We went down to a depth of just over 400 or 500 feet or so. And so if you can imagine, this, my hand here is the submarine. This is the loch floor. We're going along at an angle. You could see bits of rock jutting out of the sandy floor. And then the loch just suddenly fell away. I've said this in other programs. Bang, like a big channel. Woof, the loch floor just fell away.
Wow.
Can we go down there? Can we go down there? No, I'm sorry, we've got to stick to our allotted course. And the journey was fantastic because it was just like water, bits of water vegetation, but nothing really weird. You know, we never saw Nessie, obviously. And I asked him, have you ever seen Nessie? Because he was taking other tourists down. He says, no, he says, but we have had some very unusual, anomalous sonar returns. And he says, Malcolm, I'm a trained submariner. I know what to look for. I can't explain these large contacts. So again, this is another man who's in the industry and he couldn't account for it, but it was...
knows his stuff.
It does indeed.
Quick question, well, it's a double one. Do you think there's more than one Nessie? And have there been many UFO sightings around the area?
First and foremost, yes, there would obviously need to be more than one Nessie for a colony of any creature to exist for that amount of time, for sure. There is abundance of fish in the loch anyway for a predator to take advantage of. So, yes. Now, if I had to put a figure on how many, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't think there are any more than a dozen for sure. But they're clearly a colony of these creatures and they can be sighted at any part of the loch, which they have. You know? We also have to be careful. Sometimes seals get into the loch through the Caledonia Canal. And they just pop their heads up, and that, of course, that can look mysterious.
Can you?
The second part of your question was, are there any UFOs been sighted above Loch Ness? And I'm pleased to say, yes, they have. And I mentioned earlier in the show that I saw one myself with some tourists. You know, we saw this ball of light parading up and down the hill. When I interviewed a controversial guy, Frank Serral, anybody wants to check him out on Google, Frank Serral, put Frank Serral Loch Ness and you'll see what I mean. He started to take the most outrageous and fantastic photographs of Nessie on the surface, big humps, long neck, etc. They were too good to be true. They were fantastic. They were making a Scottish Daily Record. They were making the English Daily Mail. They went all over the world. The guy was hot news. TV cameras coming from Japan and America to interview him. It all fell away because he found out that he had managed to get a postcard of a brontosaurus and cut it out and stuck it onto a glass plate and superimposed it onto the Loch Ness, you know.
Jeez.
And he did that with a number of photographs. But anyway, to get to the UFO part of the question, he had taken a photograph of this Billy Meier Pleiadian type UFO, for those who know their stuff. You know, it's like a cupola with another cupola on top.
Yeah.
Swooping down near his base camp at Foyers at Loch Ness. And it was a classic photograph. Well, no two ways about it. It didn't have any hillside in it, so it was just this UFO in the sky. So I was interviewing him about Nessie, and then I says, Frank, now obviously you've taken a photograph of a UFO. Tell me about that. No. If you start asking me about that UFO, Malcolm, the interview is stopped. I will not talk about it. And he never did. And I find that strange because why not, you know? And but above that, there have been a number of cigar-shaped objects, triangular-shaped objects, and strange lights being seen above Loch Ness. And clearly it is this hotspot, this window area,
Yeah. Has anything been seen coming in or out the water?
Not to my knowledge, and anybody that knows me knows that UFOs is a big UFOs that's been seen going into the seas are a big part of ufology. I'm sure you know this, Andy. But not Loch Ness, but a lot of it's been seen in the coming into and exiting out of the seas just off Puerto Rico. UFOs, but not in Loch Ness, to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Right, next question from Michelle. What do you think the black-eyed kids phenomenon are?
Oh dear, I have no idea. It's not something I've really studied, and it hasn't escaped me. I'm aware of it, of course I am, and but I don't know enough about it to really put any true put my thumbprint on it. I couldn't say. No idea. Sorry, Michelle. Sorry.
It's all right.
It's fine.
Whatever
it is, it's creepy.
Yeah. I actually went Cannock Chase looking for them once, but luckily, looking back, I didn't find any. So
my husband believes in nothing like that, but I've warned him about that. If any kids come to the door, please do not let them in, because it freaks me out that much. It's just, oh no.
Well, we don't let our friends in, let alone people we don't know.
Yeah.
There's no chance of that happening. Right. Next one from Paul Hadley. Has Malcolm seen any fae? Thank you.
Fae as in elementals and fairies, I take it?
Yes.
I'm guessing,
I mean, I do give a lecture on fairies, which encompasses the Cottingley fairies, which, as we know, was a hoax, although one of the ladies to her dying day still claims that the fifth photograph is real. And I mean, the Cottingley story is fantastic anyway. I just so much enjoy talking about that. But the question is, have I seen anything? A couple of quick stories. When I was a wee boy, this gave me this grounding for this wonderful subject. I was staying in they call them prefabs. There was these buildings that were put up after the Second World War because of the demolitions in Birmingham and London. Prefabs were just tin kind of houses. And I was staying there for a wee while with one of my aunties, and I couldn't sleep. I was about, 6 or 7 years of age, and I was just had my elbows on the windowsill looking out into the garden. There was a street light maybe about 30 feet away, and I was looking at this glow coming from beneath the window, and I couldn't put my head out far enough to see what it was. And then eventually it came out, and I know, I'm sorry you asked the question, I've got to tell the truth. Yes. Anybody asks me a question, I tell it as it is. I swear to you, Andy, Deb, your viewers, your listeners, I did see a little winged creature. It was not a moth, it was not a fly, and it was colourful, and it was in this bright white glow. And you know, again, people would say, Malcolm, come on, it's childish imagination.
Yeah.
You could be right, but again, like that small television that we spoke about earlier, I did see it. I did see it. I wasn't sleeping. And then another story concerns a good psychic friend of mine, Mr. Ian Shanes. We were doing some research about Loch Morar. Loch Morar is in northern part of Scotland. It also has a creature fondly known as Morag. only 11 miles long. It's quite deep, though. It's deeper in Loch Ness. Anyway, we were up there, and I was speaking to my sidekick, Ian Shanes. We're walking along this path adjacent to the loch, and I'm talking away. And so anyway, he was gone. Where did he go? So I looked behind me, and he was talking to a bush. And I walked up to him and says, Ian, what are you doing, son? Just give me a minute, Malcolm. Give me a minute. Okay. So I gave him a minute. I said, what's going on? What's all that about? Okay, it's just to be the fairy folk. They're in this bush, and they're asking us why we're here, because this is their land. They belong to this area, and we're strangers in their land, and they want to know why we're here. So I just told them, we're just up for a look around the loch and all that, and they were quite happy with it. Now, it sounds preposterous, but if anybody else had told me that, I may have laughed, but not with Ian. He's my life on this. Guy's fantastic when it comes to psychic phenomena. Brilliant. So that's the only stories I can really say about the fae folk or the elementals, other than, I tell a lie. There's Debs, you may know this fella, Alien Bill.
I do. He's a good friend of mine,
He's a lovely guy. Well,
he is.
A few years ago, Alien Bill, for those who don't know him, is a lovely guy who takes loads of photographs of orbs and bands of light and all that. But on one occasion, he was going to the Edward Confessor Church in York, and he initially saw this bright ball of light. So he took a photograph of it. Then he took another photograph, and when he looked at it, because this is digital now, you can see it straight away, of course, in the camera, he caught what looks to be like a fairy, and it clearly has a humanoid form. It's got your legs, it's got your body, it's got the arms, and then two wings. And so what we did, and I'll try and cut a very long story short, I sent an email with this image to a lot of people who study insects. I'm sure there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is.
I can't. Entomology? No, is it entomology?
Something like that, yeah. So we sent it to over 24 people in the UK and some in America and some in Ireland, saying, take a photograph of this strange fly. Could you tell me? Never mentioned fairy. Could you tell us what kind of fly this is? And some people said it was a midge. Some people said it was a binoped fly or something, or a dragonfly, and this and that and the other. But the thing is, not one of them agreed with each other. They were all given different examples of that. Nobody, of course, said it was a fairy. But Bill was of the opinion that, and it looks like it's just a shame we haven't got the photograph to show you.
I was just looking for it, actually, because I'm sure he sent me that one. He sent me loads of his pictures, but I can't find it.
So it's clearly a very unusual photograph. Does it truly portray a fairy? Some people would say yes, some people would say no. But it's all about the eye of the beholder. He has managed to capture some strange, anomalous things, and that's just one of them.
Yeah. Some of his photographs are just you can't work out what that phenomena is, can you? It's just amazing.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's incredible. It really is,
Yeah, he's lucky.
Yes.
Right, next question from Rick again. What phenomena would Malcolm like to experience?
Well, thanks for the question, Rick. I mean, and people think I'm stupid and daft for agreeing with us, because the phenomena that I'd like to happen to me, and I know it upsets people who's had this, is a UFO abduction. And people have said, Malcolm, you wouldn't like it, my friend. You would not like it. Why do you want to contemplate it, Malcolm? It's not bloody nice. I know that. But I'm one of these guys, I want things to happen to me yesterday. I want to be involved with things. I want to touch it, grasp it, taste it, smell it. And I would like to, and I don't understand why a guy like me who studied this phenomena for over, 45 years or more hasn't had this experience. Do they know guys like me will tell tales and really put it out there, or they say, no, we're not going to him, or maybe my genetic code or my genetics had nothing to do with their program or their agenda. But to answer Rick's question, it would certainly be that. And also, I would like to have an out-of-body experience and, travel, like astral travel.
Astral travel,
And that famous guy, Robert Monroe, he's written books about it. And he's had some wonderful adventures, and people have seen them in that astral form, and etc. So it's just experiencing it, certain phenomena, and getting a grasp for that. So that's those are the two things I like.
Yeah. Oh, you could have actually been abducted and you just don't know it.
That's very true, Debs. Maybe it has happened, and who knows? But I'd like to remember if I could.
When I've done my regression course, I'll come and see you.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah. But then again, even if somebody did regress me, I could confabulate. I could come out with a cryptonesia story that would be pleasing to the hypnotherapist, be it whoever it might be. And would it truly be a real deal, or would it just be something I've read? So, even though I believe in these things, on the other side of the coin, other side of the fence, there's always an alternative explanation to account for any given UFO or paranormal experience, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to say, after speaking to Preston Dennett last week, my experience, I'd want to be abducted. I know it just sounds outrageous, but I really would.
Some of the accounts that he's put in this book that I'm reading at the moment are just like, some of them are really horrific, and then on the other side, there's some really positive, like people being shown how to operate the craft that they're on, and shown round and told what's
learn
what.
to levitate.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think one of I've read, there's a lot of good books coming out in the UK just now. Jason Gleaves, he's got a few good coming out. Philip Mantle's UK UFO landings. I'm going through that just now. Absolutely bloody brilliant. It's great. Yeah. A historical journey, yearly step-by-step journey of close proximity UFO sightings and landings and creatures, and it's fantastic. And he's doing good work, just like John Hanson, another wonderful guy in British ufology. Ex-police officer John Hanson has got the Haunted Skies books, and he's got building up this library, which for when he's gone, it's there for posterity. It's there for
I've read a few of his,
there's some great people in British ufology, there really are.
Next question is from Umbraman. What phenomena is Malcolm most wary or afraid of, and why?
That's a good one.
That's a very good one. Thanks for that, Umbra. I suppose it would be that hat man, or these shadow people. I spoke earlier about the Irish family who were plagued by these in their family home, and these are quite terrifying. Okay, they don't always seem to do anything. I'll tell a lie. I think she said on one occasion she felt a pressure on her chest, and then it came off her chest. So probably I'd be wary of that, Umbro. I'd be very wary of any waking up and seeing something looming over you, like the shadow man or the hat man with the fedora hat looming over you. I'm like anybody else, I'd be scared as well. And probably, I've said this on stage as well, I've said probably the best piece of kit that a Ghostbuster should have is bicycle clips. Think about it. Because you probably would need them if you're that scared,
Yeah. Or trousers with cuffs on the bottom.
Yeah. Why do you think I wear jogging bottoms when I go investigating?
But, let's be honest, the paranormal can be very, very scary. I've spent many nights in haunted houses, I've seen things, etc. And I do get scared, I do get apprehensive, I do feel, jittery, etc., etc. And certain things have happened to me, over the years. I've mentioned before on other programs that I've had my hair pulled by nothing. I've been kicked by nothing. I've had my face slapped by nothing. And that happened to me when I was starting my paranormal journey, and I'm glad it did, because I knew nobody was near me. Nobody was around me to slap me or pull my hair. And I wasn't on drugs or alcohol. It happened. And I went, thank you. And now totally I'm off that. I've jumped off that fence. I'm jumped off the proverbial fence. I'm in the believer's camp now, So sometimes you need scary things to really get your head into the game.
But don't you think it's good to have that scare factor when you're going out doing this stuff?
Yeah,
it makes a big difference. than being not afraid of anything.
Yeah, I mean, any Ghostbuster who says that they're not afraid is lying. You know, okay, they may have been maybe used to going to these haunted buildings. Of course, 9 times out of 10, nothing happens anyway. You know, but on that last occasion, on that one time, that is like putting petrol in a car. That car's not going anywhere till you put petrol in it. And it's the same with the paranormal. As soon as that ambience of paranormality hits you, you're so thankful to be in this umbrella of this wonderful world. And that's what makes people like myself and yourself, Debs and Andy, so involved with the subject, and have people on your show to spread the word and get the information. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I've got a question. I wanted to know about the ghost that shouted at you to leave the house.
Oh, yes. How did you remember that one, Dave? Anyway,
I found it.
Well, what happened was I was living in London at the time, and I was in between houses. And I think, again, this was somewhere in North London. I can't remember. It was at Haringey or somewhere. And I went to view this house, and all the houses looked the same. And it was right at the very, very end of the street on the left-hand side. And I went, oh, God, it looks horrible. It looks disgusting. But I'm here now. So there was this guy with his calculator. Are you Mr. Robinson? You come to look at house? I said, that's me. So I came in, and it was dark and dismal, and it was like where pictures used to be. You've got the white marks on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be. So you get the idea.
Yeah, dank.
I knew, exactly. I knew straight away this is not the house for me, but I'm here. The guys all trying to sell it to me. Let's go upstairs, Mr. Robinson. Let's go upstairs. So we went upstairs, and I was in this room, and I was looking about, and it was just as bad upstairs as it was downstairs. And then suddenly, get out of the house! And I looked at the man to see if he heard his voice. And so he's still on his calculator. So if you pay your deposit, I've said, for instance, you paid 1 month up front, and I'm looking at him, and he never heard that. Then I heard it again. Get out of my house! And I went, is it somebody in the back garden? No. Because it sounds as if it's here. It sounds as if it's right next to my ear. And I'll tell you, honest to God, folks, I really, really got a fright. And I didn't want to show it because there was nothing to show because he hadn't heard it.
Yeah.
And eventually I had to say, mate, wait, stop on your calculator. I'm not going to take it. It's not for me. Oh, but I said, look, no, I don't want it. And I was going down the staircase. It was like this horrible presence was following me down the staircase.
Making sure you left.
I was so glad to get out of there. You know, that's where I definitely needed bicycle clips, I'll tell you. And so that gets back to Umbro had the question, what scares you? You know, so that certainly scared me. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it would have done me as well.
Yeah.
Mind you, a lot of people, I've had it. A lot of people report having like the name shouted at them. I've had it a few times.
Yeah.
But it's like a really insistent, like Deborah. Not like Deborah or whatever. It's really insistent, trying to get your attention, but there's nothing.
No nice about it.
No.
Yeah,
it's like a solid.
Your mum would have shouted you to tell you off.
Yeah.
I mean,
usually about.
It's probably. I mean, I've said this on other shows as well, but I've got to tell the story again for anybody who's not heard this story, because it's always new to some people. And the most scariest thing that I've ever seen was, of course, the chest of drawers. And I'm sure you're aware of the story, Deborah, yeah? Are you aware of it?
Yes. Yeah.
And Andy, are you aware of this story?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, for those viewers who are not, when I gave lectures in London, this old lady came up to me. She says, Malcolm, do you want to see a ghost? Yeah, sure, okay. I says, well, what's happening? She says, well, we have this psychic medium. He goes into trance and strange things happen. And I live in Chingford. And if you're not doing anything, Malcolm, please come along and check this out. Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. Let's go. So to cut a long story short, I went to the lady's house. She took us upstairs. And in one of the back bedrooms, there was a wooden chest with small glass pieces there on it, shelves, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Small glass shelves, and on it was rings and coins and buttons. What's that? Oh, these are apports, Malcolm. These are things that fell into the seance room, and when you pick it up, they're really hot. And she had it all tagged, the date, the time and everything.
Wow.
So anyway, to this other back bedroom, and it only had 2 pieces of furniture in it. It was a tall, slender unit with a small red ambient light on the top and a small chest of drawers. And in the corner of the room was a black cloth. And behind the cloth was a small plastic chair. And she says, Malcolm, the psychic will be here any minute. And so obviously you can speak to him. I went, yeah, cool. So the chap came up the stairs. I says, you the psychic? Yes, that's me. It's okay if I pad you down? Why? I said, just want to make sure you're not hiding anything on your person. So I patted him down. He took his shoes off. We sat him in the chair. We strapped him to the chair with heavy Velcro straps. Yeah. And there were all these little bells, silver bells tacked onto the walls of the room. It'll become apparent in a moment. And then we strapped him down. So the lady put out the lights, and there were, with myself, there were 3 other people facing the corner of the room with this black drape. He had his feet, stocking feet, white socks sticking out from underneath it. And then suddenly, all these little bells in the wall started to tinkle. I went, oh, aye. There's no wind coming in. There's no wind or anything. Then suddenly, all these voices, male, female, young and old, there, under your chin, next to your ear, next to your legs, everywhere. Now, somebody's throwing their voice. Somebody must be throwing their voice. So I'm looking at the people beside me, and they're like, oh my God, they were as scared as me, you know. And then suddenly this cloth pushed about 2 feet out into the room, molded this horrible man's face. And the guy's feet were still planted firmly on the floor. And it was like the eyes were looking at the room. And then it just rescinded, and the cloth was straight again. And then at that point, the small chest of drawers, which was sitting next to the curtain, started to wobble. Now, my eyes were adjusted to the dark room because of the red ambient light. It threw out sufficient light to see the contours of everybody in the room. And this wee chest of drawers floated up into the ceiling, came across the room, and slowly and gingerly fell on my feet, on my toes. And I'll say it happened. I'm not going to tell a lie. A voice boomed out in the room. Was Mr. Robinson impressed by this? That's what it said. That's what it says. And I says, I'll be more impressed if you take it back. We shall see what we can do. So I made the cardinal sin. I've said it many times in interviews. I hooked my finger under the top of the chest of drawers, and I said to myself, you're going nowhere. Going nowhere. Okay, spirit, when you go, take it away. 1 minute went by, nothing. 2 minutes, nothing. 3 minutes, 3 minutes. What the hell's going on here? There were nobody to the left, nobody to the right of this thing. It was starting to push away from my finger, and I'm trying to pull it back, and I couldn't. It was like a hot knife through butter. It floated up into the air, went across, and fell down. And as it did so, as it hit the bottom of the floor, a tremendous burst of cold wind, icy cold wind, came into the room, and your breath was freezing up in front of you. It was crazy. And I've never seen the likes of it. The only downside about this true story, the only downside is the lady would not let us bring in any video cameras or audio equipment to record it. So when I tell this story, it's a lovely story, but I've no evidence, I've no proof.
No.
You know? But it did happen.
Then again, if you had been able to take in equipment, possibly nothing would have happened. Because that's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Or if something did happen, we've made it up on computer or something and fed it into the footage. So you can't win sometimes.
No,
but,
you can't.
That for me, folks, is the fuel for the fire. When things like that happen, that makes it all worthwhile. Makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
Last question is actually one that I covered earlier anyway, from Mike. What does Malcolm think about the possibility of all phenomena coming from the same source as discussed recently on Codes of the Unknown? Like I say, we've kind of...
Yeah, I mean, the people say that the paranormal and ufology is like all dimensional. It's all part of the same etheric realms or something. And I remember I did a case in Devon where this lady was having a lot of UFO activity and aliens appearing in her home. And on this occasion, I was there to interview her, and she started to tell me the story, and then she stopped. I says, no, talk to me. She says, well, not only did I see a small grey standing in the corner of the room, but I also saw this small ghostly child. She was dressed in a pinafore dress like you used to get in the 1960s or 70s show Little House on the Prairie, one of these pinafore dresses. And she just appeared with ringlets in her hair. So you've got a ghost at the foot of the bed, and you've got a grey in the corner of the room. So is this phenomenon part of the one of the mixing and gelling? People would say, yeah, and I do think it is all part of the same thing to some degree, yes. It's a dimensional thing for me. Very, very dimensional.
Yeah. I've just got one last question. Sorry, I've just thought of it then. Why do you think that we are being contacted by all these different things? What do you think the main purpose of it all is?
That's one of these questions, which not only is a fantastic question, it's probably one of the most difficult questions. You could ask a number of ufologists. No, don't be sorry. You could ask a number of ufologists here in the UK and overseas, and you probably get 100 different answers.
Yeah.
For me, all I can say to you, Andy, is there clearly is an agenda. We know that the ufology has been with us from millennium. It's in cave paintings, it's in Renaissance paintings. We see it in artwork all over the Australian desert, etc. And so clearly they've always been with us. It's been with us through the Scandinavian ghost rockets of 1946. People say that maybe the pixies and elves of yesteryear, and we have the fairies and elves, we now have these small grey creatures. These are the days elementals. Is the phenomena progressing as the decades go on? But as for an answer, and I've been in this for over 40 years, Andy, and I still don't have the answer for sure. All I can say is it's real, it's there, it's tangible, it's happening, it's affecting people, and it's just very distressing and so annoying for me.
Yeah. But would you like to find out what it's all about?
Well, I would like to, before I pop my clogs myself, and go to the big hereafter in the sky and what have you. Of course I would. I mean, I think a lot of people want to get answers for the mysteries, because effectively that's what we're in it here for. We don't know. Science is learning all the time. And I've said on other shows as well, we laughed at Marconi, that will never work. We laughed at John Logie Baird and his television, that will never work. We laughed at the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, that will never fly. Oh, sorry, it's flown, sorry. And people tend to laugh and poke fun at things because it looks and sounds ridiculous. But we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because we're dealing, paranormal sciences are real. It's just a shame that some of the scientists don't want to enter our realm and find out about it themselves, because they know from their peers they're going to get laughed at and etc. And that's why John Mack, God bless him, he was fantastic when he came out and wanted to get involved in this subject. He took the chance, he took the gamble to say, I don't care what my colleagues say. The UFO abduction phenomena is very, very real. And sadly, as we all know, he's no longer here to be part of that. But if anybody knows now, it's certainly John Mack.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Amazing. I can't believe how them 2 hours have gone.
No, I can't.
It just
fly by.
Yeah, I love speaking about it, as you probably guess,
Yeah.
We love hearing about it.
Oh, I'd sit and listen all night.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
I must thank you. I'll thank you very much, Debs and Andy, for having me on your show.
You're welcome.
Well, you're doing fantastic work. Really, really good work. Keep at it, my friends.
Thank you.
Right. Always good to know.
Yeah, can I just do 2 quick updates?
Yes.
So the first one, when we went to Kingsford Cemetery on Wednesday
night.
I was going to go back, but it's absolutely throwing it down on Thursday. So what I've done on the website, I've added Google Maps onto it and pinpointed Kingsthorpe. So if you want to go and look at it, like Street View or whatever, it's to the right-hand side, because it actually pins it in the middle of the road. So if you go, because it's the main entrance to where it is on Arbor Road.
Right.
So if you just go to the right, you can zoom in and scroll, and so you can see how big the cemetery is. So you can see how much ground we actually cover when we go in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's on there. Save me going out getting soaked.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. So, and there may be a stream on Wednesday because I want to get Ellie on. That's one of the girls that comes out investigating with me. She's had a few shadow people experiences. So, yeah, there's quite a lot that's gone on. So I want to get her on and tell her side of the story.
Yeah.
But the main question of the day is for Deborah. Now, she loves this bit, and I've made a little video for her. It's not a potato, it's a submarine. So
it's
I'll
a
play
potato
it
with
now.
chips sticking out of it.
You'll see it. So, there you go.
Hey, who's our guest next time?
I have no idea.
Chips, potato.
It's not, definitely not. I built that myself. It's real.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So, who's our guest?
Our guest is Stephen Lobicek. I'm presuming that's his. Oh, it's not Stefan. It's Stefan Lobicek.
Yeah, that's right. You said Stephen. I'll let you on. Yeah, it's
So
late.
I was trying to concentrate on his surname. I'm not good with these foreign names.
No, I don't know where it is either. So, anyway.
Lobicek.
So, massive thank you, Malcolm, for coming on. I absolutely loved it. Cheers to Joe for doing the mod.
Yes.
Everyone in the chat for your questions.
Thank you.
Great again, as always. And that's pretty much it for this week. So,
have a good weekend.
Yes. And we will see you. Hopefully, going to do that on Wednesday. If not, it'll definitely be on Friday. Nice. So, take care and see you all soon.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.